everybody and welcome back to the channel, and if you're here for the very first time, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you. I'm Jane and my husband Mike is behind the camera. We're British early retirees, we've got no debt, we've paid off the mortgage and we live a thrifty, frugal and money-saving life here in Brittany in northwest France. And every Wednesday we invite you into our home for a midweek money chat. Now this week we're talking about impulse buying, all those reasons why people impulse buy. And I often end my videos with being reflective, and I want to start it with being reflective. There's absolutely nothing wrong with spending money that you've budgeted for. There's absolutely nothing wrong with spending money that you've saved. So if you've come to a point you think to yourself, well, I just want to buy this now and I have a budget for that, that's great. What we're talking about today is those impulse purchases that you haven't budgeted for, that you really haven't got the money for, that could damage your financial journey in some way or another, and why we impulse buy. Let's get going with the video. The first one is parent guilt or grandparents' guilt. We've got a world where people are working long hours, they're commuting to work, they've got stressful jobs, they're often really tired, and they're not spending as much time with their children as maybe they would like to do. So when it comes to weekends or time with their children, they can often easily be swayed to spend money that maybe they have or they haven't got. And grandparent guilt is real too. Lots of people, when bringing up their children, they didn't have the money to spend on their own children, and now they've got grandchildren, they like to indulge them, they like to spend money on them. And I want to give you a suggestion here of ways of dealing with the impulsivity of dealing with that. It is absolutely okay to have a spending money on the children whenever we like budget. So put that money aside, have a sinking fund for it. Have a, I know once in a while we're just going to want to take the children out and spend money on them budget. That's perfectly okay. And it's absolutely okay to have a grandchildren sinking fund budget, and having that money that you put aside and go, well, every now and then I just want to take the grandchildren out and have a really good time with them, or take them away for the day, or take them out to eat, and it is absolutely okay. So fix it into your budget if you can, the amount that you are happy to spend, the amount that you've got. So when it comes to those moments of just thinking like, oh, I'd really like to buy this for, I'd really like to spend that on, you've got the budget and it takes away the impulsivity. You're not taking that from another budget or spending money that you haven't got, and you can do so happily. Lots of impulsive behaviour from plenty of research out there comes from people avoiding their own emotions of how we feel. And we are all human. I'm human. I have days where I just don't feel good. There are days when Mike doesn't feel good. We don't feel happy about the world. And that happens. Great expressions. Some days you're the dog and some days you're the lamppost. So we have those days where we just don't feel good. And lots of people start spending money then as a way of suppressing their emotions or masking their emotions, or actually their way of dealing with their emotions. So they'll suddenly do things like, hey, we've had a really rough week, or we've had a really bad day. Let's go out for a meal. Let's go and get my nails done. Let's go and buy some new sports equipment. Let's go out and spend money, which, as I said at the beginning, is fantastic if you've got a budget for that. It's fantastic if you've been saving for that. That's all well and good. But it's not good if you're spending the supermarket money. It's not good if you're spending the Christmas money. It's not good if you're spending the car maintenance money. That's when it's not great, is it? So let's look at ways that we can deal with those emotions without suddenly running out there and spending all that money. So let's go to the modern research that we know now, don't we? We know the best way to deal with our emotions is to look after our well-being. Get out for a walk every day. Get out in the fresh air every day. Do some exercise every day. Connect with people each day. Use your phone to, you've got your phone, you've got your internet device. Catch up with people in a Skype message. Catch up with them with Messenger. Catch up with them and have a face-to-face chat with them. Meet with people. Do those things that are really positive for our health, because often those masking behaviours, those suddenly spending money, I don't feel very good about myself. And I have days when I feel awful about myself. And I absolutely know that going out and buying a whole load of new clothes will make me feel good for that long. But at the end of it, I've still got to live with those emotions and own them. So I know if I'm feeling like that, it's time for me to say, it's time to get out for a walk. It's time to make sure that I'm eating a healthy meal. It's time to make sure that I'm catching up and looking after my healthy sleep schedule, because suddenly spending all that money and impulsively spending money actually isn't really dealing with it. If you're having a bad day, I hope it passes. We all have them every now and then. When I've reached out to some of you in the past and say what causes you to suddenly impulse spend, or what maybe causes you to overspend, lots of you will turn around and talk about habitual spending. And lots of that behaviour is things like, oh, I always do that. Oh, I always do that. I can't pass the charity shop. I can't pass the thrift store without going in. I can't pass the garden centre without popping in. And lots of those spending habits are literally just that, aren't they? You know, we take the kids to football on a Wednesday. We're all tired afterwards, so we always go for fish and chips, or we always get a curry and a takeout on the way home. We always do that. It's what we always do. And there are other habits, aren't there? And I've watched people do this, and I've done it to an extent. I'm not an innocent party in all of this. You know, I've been somewhere. Charity shops are my weakness. They are absolutely my weakness. I will go in there looking for bedding, for sheets for my quilting, and I'll have a look around at something else. And there's 9 times out of 10, I'll find something that I didn't go in for. It's just habit. It's not a good habit, but it is just a habit. But it's being aware of that. And something that Mike and I have learned to do over the years is have that moment of reflection in the car before we go into a store now. So we literally turn off the engine, take a deep breath, check the shopping list of what are we actually going in for. Because, you know, money is, you know, we've got a budget, we've got to stick to this budget. We'll never achieve our financial goals if we just habitually buy all of the time. So things like sticking to my food budget, sticking to my shopping list, actually going into the charity shop, buying what I went in there for and coming out with it, going into the garden centre to buy the compost and coming out with the compost, not compost and 2 rose bushes as well, because they were just beautiful. So look at those spending habits and think to yourself, what do I need to do to actually be reflective on that? And if it helps you, before you go into the store, turn off your car engine and just sit there, literally count to 10 and remind yourselves of what you're actually going in for, and don't fall into those impulsive shopping habits. We all know that people impulse buy to boost their self-esteem. And there are lots of reasons why we might feel just not good about our house, not good about what we own, not good about the activities that we do, not good about what we're wearing, whether we've got makeup or not, whether we have our hair done or not. And we know that. Monday mornings when you go into work and people say to you, how was your weekend? And you're scratching around in the depths of your memory trying to think, have I actually done anything this weekend? And then you're overhearing conversations about people who've done stuff or been places or had experiences. And it can have an impact on your self-esteem. And it does. Those of us who are, you know, in our mid-50s and our late 50s, we menopausal women, it's an absolute crisis of self and of our self-esteem. And if we're not careful, we can spend an awful lot of time and money trying to make ourselves look younger, make ourselves look fresher, make ourselves look different, where actually it's the responsibility of the rest of the world to just accept the fact that some of us are aging. And that's it. And we're just who we are. So there's always stuff out there trying to smash your self-esteem, isn't there? And there are days when I will admit to you that I don't feel good about myself, and I could just go out there and spend money having my hair done and spend money having my clothes done. But actually, on reflection of not doing those things, I know that those feelings of low self-esteem pass. There are days when we feel good, great about ourselves, and the days where we don't. So it's being reflective about that and thinking to myself, am I just about to spend all of this money because somebody said something, or I've seen something on the TV, or I've seen somebody of my age who's actually a movie star who spends all their time, effort and money on looking good? We could all compare ourselves as women of my age to J-Lo, can't we? And we could, if we spent all of her time and all of our effort and all of her money on looking good, look that good. But actually, some of us have got gardening to do, we've got to get a casserole in, and there's ironing waiting for us, and those dogs need walking, and that's the reality. So check yourself. Are you just about to impulse buy because of low self-esteem? Remember this, you have worth just as who you are. You are important just as who you are, and you are beautiful and you are loved just as you are. The next one is a massive one, why people impulse purchase and go out and spend money, and often it is an emotional response. And let's think about those emotions that we feel that cause people to overspend. One of the biggest ones is stress. People are really stressed, so they start spending money. They don't start making good financial decisions because they're under a lot of stress. Another one is massive in today's society, is people feeling really unnoticed and undervalued. You could be in the workplace, you could have been there for 5 years, 10 years, doing a really good job. You know, some new person turns up doing exactly that you've been doing for all that time, and they get all the credit and all the notice, and you walk away feeling really undervalued. You know, you can have a crisis response, you can have a grief response, and all of these things can trigger spending. And all of those is all about knowing yourself and knowing at that moment in time that, if you, like I said, if you've got the budget at the beginning, I've turned around and said that it's absolutely okay. You might have I'm having a really terrible week at work budget and spend it on a Friday money. That's, you know, oh, that's a good budget to have, isn't it? Oh, not a good budget to have, because I don't want you to have a terrible week at work. I want you to always have a good week at work. But you could have a budget for that. You could literally have an emergency, I need, you know, a couple of margaritas with the girlfriends at the bar on a Saturday night budget. That could be your budget. But it's knowing yourself and knowing how you spend. I was a teacher for 20 years, and we would have constant, what you would call appraisals. People would observe us teaching, check our marking, check our everything that we did. Check everything, scrutinise constantly about how we did our job. And at the end of that cycle of that, and the feedback that you get, whether you are a good or an outstanding teacher or an okay teacher, the next emotion that you might feel might be relief. And from that relief, I have seen people go, oh, it's such a relief to finally get a good appraisal for my work, that, you know, I've booked a weekend in Ibiza. Oh, great, if you've got an Ibiza budget, fantastic. I went out and bought myself some new jewellery, fantastic, if you've got to buy yourself new jewellery budget. But if your emotional response to those feelings of whether it's stress or relief or anxiety or any of these things is to go out and spend money, and it's causing you financial problems, is take a look at how you feel. And before you buy anything, before you do anything, before you get out the car, before you step into Pandora to buy that next thing, is to ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? How am I actually feeling right now? And if it's I'm feeling cheesed off, I'm feeling absolutely fed up, ask yourself, what can I do that will be a lot cheaper than booking myself a weekend in Ibiza? Would it be meeting up with your friend for a coffee? That's a bit cheaper, isn't it? A bit cheaper than Ibiza. Would it be cheaper for you to sit down and have a chat with your friend on a Saturday morning with a scone and a cup of tea. Costs a lot less. But ask yourself, before you go and do that impulse buy, before you go and buy that without thinking about it, ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? The final one, and we all know that this is a great reason why people go out and impulse buy, is they're bored, they're fed up, they want to do something different, they want something new, they want to cheer themselves up, all those things. But lots of it comes down to boredom. Same old, wearing the same old clothes, I've got the same old hair, I've got the same old house, and you want to go and freshen things up. And like I said right back at the beginning, if you've got a budget for that and you've planned that, and it's not taking away the money from the new tyres, it's not taking away the money that you're putting aside for the grandchildren for Christmas, that's fine. It's when you just suddenly start doing those things to leave that boredom. So, no, like I've said previously about understanding those emotions is thinking to yourself, when do I get bored? I get really, really bored in January, February and March. It's been raining. It rains here from December, all January. Well, it was raining in November, all November, all December, all January, all February. And it's just stopped raining now in March. And my goodness me, I feel like I've been shut away indoors. And that's why it is so important for people like us, we retirees, to have those indoor hobbies, to have those things that we do in the winter time. So understand that if you're buying out of boredom, is think to yourself, oh. It's like understanding that I was stressed, or understanding that my self-esteem isn't great at the moment, or understanding that I'm not coping with my emotions at the moment, that actually I'm shopping, oh my goodness, because I'm bored. And we can do that with the supermarket so easily. Opening the fridge and oh, lettuce is still there. Opening some potatoes again and feeling bored. And that's when I start looking for different things to do with what I've got. Different crafts to do with what I've already got. Different projects to do around the house or around my garden with what I've already got. And I know when I asked the question, so many of you came up with really positive things that you love to do, when other people might think, well, that's a bit boring, or you might feel a bit bored, but you find those things to do. And thank you so much. And if you want to see that conversation, all you have to go is to our community page to find that. We are only human, and there are so many reasons why people can and do impulse purchase. Keep the receipt and make sure that afterwards you could take it back if you want to, if you may have overspent or you've impulse purchased, or you've booked that weekend in Ibiza and you find yourself on the EasyJet plane or the Ryanair plane and away you go. It happens. But next time, think to yourself, how can I stop this happening again? Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all of your comments, and I'm going to hand this straight to you. Have you ever impulse purchased anything? And what was the reason? Why did you do it? Share it with us. And if you know that you have the tendency to impulse spend, for example, on your children or grandchildren, or impulse spend, or I don't know, maybe items for the house, what do you do to make sure that you put your behaviour in check? Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.